It is not safe to exist on planet Earth.
If you find yourself, you're going to find an imperfect person in need of grace and correction. When I met you, you were 19. You had your own apartment. You had your own car. You had your own job. You were in school. You had a way of taking care of yourself.
That don't sound like level 1 to me. That sounds like at least level 3.
I'll give you that. You're at least a level 2.
Can I get level? I'll let you be the judge.
Don't try to make your marriage look like someone else's Instagram profile that you see.
The deal is not to be perfect, but to be willing to progress. How does God measure acceptance? What is it that he requires? Psalm 51 says, what up, good people? I'm Michael Bethany, the host of the Life in the Wild podcast, and I am sitting in my home, which feels real good. You know, some of these podcasts are on the road, different places, but it's good to be in this place of peace. And I want to welcome you guys to the episode. Today's going to be really, really special. But before we jump into it, do me a huge favor. Would you please partner with me in spreading the word of this podcast and this content by liking this episode, and number 2, subscribing to this channel, because that's just a small free thing you can do, but it goes a long way when it comes to reaching new people and connecting and using all the things that YouTube lets us do to really spread the word. So if you guys would do that, that would be amazing. I'm so glad that you guys are joining us. Life in the Wild podcast is a place curated for you. Everybody can eat from this table, but there are some people who are looking for this table. There are some people who need this table to survive from this week to the next week with what you're doing creatively, whether you are an artist, worship leader, an influencer, or any kind of creative that's doing life like this. And there aren't maybe enough places that you can trust that will help you navigate the path of your purpose. Listen, I understand what it's like to walk this thing out, to have more creativity than I have maturity, right? To have more vision than I have wisdom to actually release it. And you need a platform that's not just entertaining you, but that's really helping to partner with your discipleship process. A guy told me one time, when it comes to your own development, you have to have a plan for it. If you're expecting somebody else to develop a plan for your success, for your trajectory, for your maturity, and you're gonna lease that out to somebody else to manage for you, it won't happen. But if you do that for yourself and find resources and places and podcasts and books and mentors and a church to help that journey, then it's going to happen. You can't make it all happen, but you can partner with people that can help you. And that's what Life in the Wild podcast is all about. We are discipling creative leaders wherever you're coming from, whether you write books, whether you create music, whether you create content, films, social media stuff. There's something in you that is burning to be released creatively, and you got to get it out. And this is one of the things that I can relate to. When you have a creative vision, it will never allow you to sit still. You got to get it out. And as soon as you get one thing out, there's a new baby waiting to be released, because that's how creativity works. And it's a beautiful thing, because we are the imago Dei, the image of God. We are like God in that respect, and that God created us to be creative people. So we want to help you in that journey. That was pretty good, man. I like the way I said that. Save that clip, Derek. We're going to use that in a promo somewhere down the line, because it's so important. But with no further ado, I want to introduce to some, present to others, an incredible woman. She's a beautiful woman. She's a smart, intelligent woman. She's a sexy woman. Now, that lets you know who this woman is, because I do have my ring on. I'm ready for this conversation. My wife, Siobhan.
Hi, everybody.
Siobhan Irene Bethany.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. I'm giving people middle names. I'm just trading them out.
Why did it have to be a country middle name, though?
What did you want to be? We could be Siobhan Mabel. No, we ain't going there.
What's my real middle name?
Marie.
Yes.
Siobhan
Marie.
Nice Siobhan Maria. Okay, so today, because I have my wife here, I got to behave. And
No, you don't.
I don't.
No.
I'm not going to behave
You
anyway.
won't.
I'm going to have fun on this podcast. We won't be before you long. But what we have to say is going to be so important. I'm already starting with the preacher isms.
You can't help yourself.
I can't help myself. But as a good host, I want to welcome you
Oh, thank you, dear.
to this podcast
welcoming me
into
to
this
my-
place.
to my home.
I actually designed this moment, like the
Oh.
plants behind you.
Wow.
I'll put them back. I promise.
Okay.
I'll put them back. So today, you are sitting in that seat with great purpose and intention, because there's a conversation we want to have, and throughout time or so, you're going to hear me talk about certain things and reference certain things. And something I reference often is a prayer that I do with some friends of mine. We do it twice a week, and we pray. And it keeps me aware of different types of creatives and different types of challenges and different things people are facing and walking through. And one of those things is marriage.
Yes.
I have a lot of friends who are dealing with that and growing in that, single and married on either side of that. Some dating, some engaged. And just this morning, one of the guys just started telling me about how he's in this dating relationship that's getting really serious. And from that relationship to young married couples who are trying to traverse not just being married, but being married and one or both people have this creative thing in them.
Yeah.
And a vision to do something that is maybe a little ambitious, out of the box. Some people just go to work and come home. And there's some people like me, for a long time, I go to work, come home, and then do something else that's probably more purpose-oriented than my work. And when you're married and you're trying to build a family and create what we were just talking about last night, create safety for each other and build a relationship, that creative element can create what would feel like a lack of safety, right? So we've shared in the past on this, but I think today will be different. Like, we're growing, ever growing in our marriage and individually. But when you talk about, you're a creative person. So talk to us about the things creatively that you love to do that people may not know about.
Oh, okay.
Talk about it.
Well, first of all, there tend to be kind of two main categories of creatives. So a lot of times there's the overt, you can see that person's creativity because it's in something that they physically do. They sing, they act, they dance, things like that, platform type creativity. And then there's more of the behind the scenes kind of more intense creatives that actually like to work in the dark.
Ooh,
So
I like
I would
that.
definitely
Working in the dark. I mean, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Because you think stage, platform, lights, but there's creativity happening in the dark.
Yeah, for sure. So I would definitely say I fall into that other category. So I love visual creativity. So I love creating beautiful spaces, environments, decorating homes. A lot of the creative work that I did when I worked with children in music, a lot of that was behind the scenes, creating sets and things like that. I love that kind of stuff. I love to do crafts, so drawing, painting.
And you love to create with food.
Food, I love to express creativity that way. So anything visually creative, I love to plan.
So let me just add this as you're saying this. When we talk about the people that we want to speak to that are looking for this table, everyone's welcome to it, but some people are really looking for it.
Yeah.
Right? I just feel like there's just dimes dropping from heaven today to just help us share this message. I think that's a great picture.
Okay.
When I say artists, musicians, worship leaders, influencers, I get to a phrase where I say creatives.
Right.
And I think that's a catch-all phrase because there's so many people creating so many things.
It's true.
When you look at what people are doing on social media, like taking their food and turning it into art.
That's definitely creative.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's that creative process. There's so many things. And so you strike me like people are designing things, designing homes. Those are like huge industry, like money earning, influential, impactful things.
Yeah.
And people like yourself, that's what you like to do.
I love to do it. I would also say another huge area of creativity for me is strategic creativity. I don't know if that's the best word for it, but if someone says they want to get something done, I feel that I have a gift to come up with paths to get there based on what resources and tools that we have available at the time. And that definitely takes an amount of creativity and a lot of faith, because you're able to see paths forward. A lot of times other people can't see.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of like another creativity in the dark kind of a category, I think, that I have.
So now that people kind of get a picture of your context for creativity, that's something you didn't say.
What did I say?
You're classically trained in piano.
I do play classical piano.
And you sing, which
And
you
I
don't
sing.
like to tell anyone for whatever
Yes,
reason.
because I love to sing in a group. Like
Right.
choir,
So
I was all over it.
Have you ever done a duet?
Yes.
Would you do one with me?
I did one with you once.
When did we do a duet?
We did one at Oak Cliff.
What did we do? What did we sing? I don't even
A
remember.
couple of things. Like it was a couples conference.
Oh, that we did do. That was like a couple years ago? Mm-hmm. What did we sing?
I don't remember. I think for me, even though I do have the gift to sing, for me, because, and you know, people who know me, they just kind of know me. I don't like attention being on me. So mentally that causes such a block where I don't enjoy that. But I will say with my work with children and music, me being able to use my voice and to create vocally with that within that context for me is what I've enjoyed the most.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode. And if you are, I want you to seriously consider becoming a part of our Life in the Wild tribe. That's right. We've got a tribe just for you. If you are a creative, an artist, an influencer, a worship leader, or a musician, and you're looking for a community, searching for a place to grow and become the best version of your creative self, this is the place for you. I want you guys to take advantage of our devotionals, our blogs, and our mentorship Bible studies, curated Bible studies for creative people that cover the topics that affect us most. So click the link in the description below so you can get your free resources. Also, send me an email. I would love to hear your feedback on all the things we're doing at Life in the Wild podcast. Don't forget to share, like, and please subscribe so we can make an impact in the world together. God bless you. Let's get back to the episode. You do creative stuff.
Yes.
But you're my wife.
Yes.
I'll see how you change your tone. Yes. When I say you're my wife. So you're my wife. So I made a statement at the beginning of this conversation when I talked about how being married to a person like myself, even with your creativity, is still different.
Very different, yeah.
Right? I've learned that I cannot do what I'm called to do without being in front of a lot of people. And, you know, some people think like, hey, you just think you think you something. Like you need to humble yourself. Or they even just think just by virtue of me being in front of people that it could be all flesh. It's like,
Yeah.
I can't do what I'm called to do
It's true.
without being in front of people. The person that's the foundation of Life in the Wild is John the Baptist. And the calling that he got that came from Gabriel to his father and his parents and his community was such that he could not do that in the dark. John's ministry had to be done in the light because it had to reach people.
Yeah.
So that meant that John had to have influence. He had to be seen. I think John going to the wilderness humbled him so that while he was doing what he was doing in front of people, he'd be grounded enough to not think it's about him.
Yeah.
I think the wilderness concept in one aspect says, I'm willing to pay the price to build a deep connection and depth with God to ground me when everybody shows up.
Yes.
Otherwise, when everyone shows up and you haven't done that work, you think they came to see you.
That's true.
And it's hard because then instead of seeing people with a heart of compassion, we see them with a heart of commerce. We're looking at them thinking about what we can get out of that transaction as opposed to what God's called us to pour into them.
Yeah.
They're not there for us to get. They're there for us to be a conduit for God to give.
That's good.
And so that's my life, but you're partnering with me in that. You're walking with me in that.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I said is how being married to a person who is creative can create a destabilizing experience. In a marriage, you want to feel safe, But being married to an entrepreneur, it doesn't feel safe because real entrepreneurs, especially like serial entrepreneurs, they live in the realm of risk. And spiritually, I call that's a realm of faith. Like you got to walk by faith, and faith always feels like risk.
It's true.
I have traversed and led you into spaces that we had to travel, and I'm sure it wasn't safe to you. What is that like for you? Like, explain that. When I say that, where do you go in your mind? How do you help talk about that for someone who's feeling that right now? What would you say to them that was for you?
Well, there's a difference between going into a space that's unsafe versus you being pushed out of your comfort zone. So I think it's important to understand the distinction because we've been in both types of places. You know, I would definitely say, for instance, when we first moved to Dallas, it was definitely pushing us out of our comfort zone, but we weren't in an unsafe space. There have been other times where you've been called to maybe work with people or be in environments that I definitely deem were, you know, quote unquote unsafe. And so I think when it comes to safety, there are many layers to that because first of all, your spouse's motivation for going into that quote unquote unsafe space, it has to be understood by both parties. You can't view your spouse's reasons for wanting to go into that space as being selfish or self-motivated, or you're basically cooked from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and so I would say to any creative spouse that make sure you get that right before you take your family anywhere. Yeah. Before you make that decision. Because there are some things within the environment that you can navigate, but there are some foundational cracks that can be in place before you get in an environment that you won't be able to recover from. Yeah. They'll actually, being in that unsafe environment will actually make it worse.
I want to just throw something in here as we're talking about safe and unsafe, because I think before we get too deep in this conversation, a lot of people are using this term safe space, safe. And I think when you operate out of fear and anxiety, places that you must go appear unsafe. Mm-hmm. Here's the reality. There is not a path in your purpose that is going to be safe. There is no place where you can go where everyone's rooting for you. There's no place that you can go where everyone has your best interest at heart. There's not a place you can go where there's not the possibility of injury, offense. There's not a place you can go that you won't be offensive. That does not exist. And if you think a safe space is a place where everyone sees it your way and that will champion you and encourage you and love you, then you can't go anywhere but heaven. Mm-hmm. It's the only place you can go. But I think this is what Jesus is saying in John 17, that he prays for us not to take us out of the world, but that we would be one with him while we're in the world. Because the world, we're in it, but not of it. It is not safe to exist on planet Earth. This is a hard place to survive. You know, there are some places you may be just throwing bottles of water away, but we work in places through Overflow Culture Global where we build wells. And there are places where people can't find water on planet Earth. There are places where people can't find food. So imagine me dropping you in a jungle in some place and tell you to find food and shelter for yourself and then protect yourself from the animals. Is that place unsafe? Yeah. But the world is not. And I was just this morning reading in Genesis how God created all these things we deem to be unsafe. The sea and all the animals beneath it, the land and all the creeping things on it, the scorching sun that sometimes gets a little hot in Texas that'll burn your skin. He made all these things, and then he made us, and he put us in a garden. He didn't call the garden unsafe, but there were things in the garden that had the potential to dominate you. But in doing so, he gave you not only a place to be, but to balance whether something's safe or not, he gave you dominion over it.
Yeah, that's good.
So when you think about a place that's safe or not safe, Think about this, Siobhan and I, we like to talk about it's hazardous. There are things that can happen in this place that you need to be. You can get injured. There are hazards you can learn how to dominate and manage and oversee and to bring security in a place that without your intention, there is no security. But do not think of life and try to plan your life in such a way that you will only go in spaces where you're celebrated. If you're waiting for a place to be celebrated, you will never go anywhere. You got to understand that your mission, Jesus says this, in this life, you will have trouble.
It's true.
The Sermon on the Mount, which is probably arguably the greatest sermon Jesus ever preached, was teaching people how to handle persecution, how to handle people mistreating them, that turn the other cheek, that if they make you walk 1 mile, walk 2. If they sue you for your shirt, give them your coat. Right? Like the idea of making peace quickly with your adversary on the way to court so things don't get worse than they need to be. Jesus is teaching us that because he's helping us to prepare for the hazards in your purpose, the hazards in your assignment, so you can understand how to handle. So as we talk about that, I want you to really reframe how you're thinking of it. Because if you call it unsafe and you treat it as a place that you shouldn't go, it's bad, then you don't understand that Canaan wasn't safe.
Right.
But it was a place they were called to go, but they were called to dominate and have authority in a place that could have hazards in it.
So I want to just first put this out there. There's nothing that you and I have undertaken, and there's no transition we've undertaken without us being in agreement.
Come on.
And that's why I want to get back to that, because when you're in agreement, even if you're looking out in an unknown and seemingly treacherous place, you're going to see it more of an adventure versus someone, kidnapping you and you putting a bag over your head and you're waking up in this new place, you're disoriented and you don't know where you are. That's a completely different kind of an experience. And so when you're talking about reframing and when you're talking about safety, if you think of it as an adventure, and with any great adventure, with any movie that you've seen, there are perils, there are victories, there are low parts, there are high parts, and everything in between. But there's a common goal that you're working toward. And so I would just kind of throw that out there as to, first of all, again, the crack in the foundation. If you and your spouse aren't in agreement, if you and your partner aren't in agreement, handle that first. But once you've handled that, when difficult times come, if you see it as an adventure and not just as an unsafe space, it may help you to emotionally just kind of cope with the perceived dangers better. So
okay, I know there's some intentional things we're going to talk about, but I want to just throw one thing out, a couple of things actually, and I'll start with me. When we got married young. Mm-hmm. I was still developing to own my creative expression. Mm-hmm. When we got married, I could sing, but I wasn't free. Mm-hmm. And so I had a lot of people-pleasing tendencies. Mm-hmm. What was that attachment style we had that mine is like an anxious attachment style where there was a little insecurity there where I would try to appease you because I was afraid that if I didn't, then you would not want to be there. Mm-hmm. And there are some things in your childhood that creates how you learn to attach. And sometimes you're right. Mm-hmm. Like that thing that's threatening you develop a style based on your reality. I wasn't afraid like I was going to be hit or whatever, but there's a way you can grow up in thinking that my performance is what people like about me. Mm-hmm. But when we got into our marriage, you met me one way and you really saw the real me, mm-hmm. but you didn't see the full me mm-hmm. because I wasn't free enough to be all of me, mm-hmm. which is so much in that. Like, should you wait till someone knows all of that before you marry them? Or we have a story that's already written, mm-hmm. but what would you say to that? If you were giving us advice with what you know now?
And it's interesting because I hear a lot of people discourage people from getting married young, but I don't see it as one either good or bad. I just think it depends on what's for you. I say that because for me, I see it kind of like a video game. You know, I married you at level 1, right?
Well, come on, analogy. You got me. You sure did. You got me level 1. I can't get level 3. I can't get level. Dang. I wasn't doing nothing.
Let me tell you why it was level 1 though.
I was Mario Brothers level 1.
I mean, it was easy breezy, a lot of sunshine, not as many enemies, right? You know, a lot of gold coins. You know. But then you graduate to level 2, you know, once you defeat that level, quote unquote. And so even though the characters are the same, the players are the same, the environment's different. That person might have new weapons that they have access to and, you know, new issues
that they didn't know they had.
That they may not know they had, you know. And so I wouldn't say wait until you believe someone's completely developed before going on a journey with them.
So let me just say this. This is so important. You don't realize how heavy this is. Because some people are like 40, 35. Mm-hmm. And this is not to shame anyone who's not married. It's not even about that. It's just to help you think through why, if you want to be, and you are avoiding it, to really be mindful of why you're doing that. And you may be saying like, well, I need to do this. I need to find myself. But it's like, we are on a journey where we will never fully know ourselves.
Very true. And spoiler alert, if you find yourself, you're going to find an imperfect person in need of grace and correction. I mean, that's who we all are. Continuously. That journey never stops.
So then what we need to be looking for is someone who will be as intentional about growth.
Yes.
As you, well, that can partner with us in that. Because I can't tell you, especially if as a creative person, one of the things I could never give you was the security of exactly what we'll be doing in 20 years.
No.
Because I don't really know. But what I do know is the person I'm working on being.
Yes.
I know that.
Yes.
That is my grounding. That is
because we were very clear about our values. That's one thing about us that has not changed. It'll be, 22 years.
We're already past.
We're there.
There we go again.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I know she loved me. She don't remember.
But anyway,
she don't remember.
That's hilarious. But yeah, that part of us hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Right. Methods have changed.
Oh, granted, we got married when we were like 12. So 22 years is really...
Yeah. We got married young. But...
it was unofficial for a while. And then... Never mind. Go ahead.
But anyway... but yeah, that part didn't change. So if you're going to delay...
Our parents didn't know when we got married. We didn't tell them. I just keep...
What are you talking about?
I said we got married young. I kept trying to let it go. It was like, we got married. We was 12. We didn't tell nobody.
Okay, I'm going to let you
let me
continue
get it out.
your
let me
story.
Get it out.
Yes,
I just feel goofy right now.
Yes, get it out. Are you done?
I'm done.
Are you sure?
Go ahead.
So yeah, I would say I don't think delaying marriage is a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just, why are you doing it? I would say the reason to do it would be if you are unsure about your value system, okay? Or is there instability there? Is there instability financially? In the sense of you can't take care of yourself. Now, when I met you, you were 19, you had your own apartment, you had your own car, you had your own job, you were in school, you know what I'm saying? So you had a developed value system at 19. You had a way of taking care of yourself. That don't
sound like level 1 to me. That sounds like at least level 3.
I'll give you that. You're at least a level 2.
Can I get level? I'm gonna let you be the judge. You just heard her talk about at 19, I had my own car, no cosign.
True, you did.
Apartment. That was a cosign apartment. But I had an own apartment. Yeah. Keep talking. What else did I have?
So you weren't at 0. Okay, there's 0.
Yeah.
Then there's level 1.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
I have cheddar. I have bank.
Yeah.
I wasn't
You're
balling,
good.
but I was paying for the dates.
You were. It was good enough for me to look at you. So.
Dang. She's just cold today.
But yeah, that would be a reason to delay. You know, if you
can't take care of yourself.
And the other thing I'm going to say though is I wouldn't even throw in unaddressed trauma in there as a reason to wait, because the funny thing about marriage, it has a way of digging up trauma you had no clue.
Okay, you just dropped a whole dime.
Yeah.
On some basic level, everyone has some level of injury and trauma.
Yes.
Trying to resolve your trauma before marriage is not a prerequisite.
No.
Even identifying all the kinds of traumatic things that I've ever had, that's not a prerequisite either.
What is a prerequisite is you making a commitment to allowing someone outside of you to be open to someone outside of you to get out of your own head when it comes to your reality and how other people experience you.
Man.
Because if you don't do that,
that's good.
Not if, but when the trauma comes up during marriage, you'll stay in your own head, or you won't be open to the wisdom and the help that other people around you can provide you to help you process through that.
So I think the deal is not to be perfect, but to be willing to progress.
Yes, I love that.
And then partnering with someone in that progress.
Yes.
And I think here's a deal you got to strike. Like whenever something comes up.
Yes. Put it on the table.
Be honest about it.
Like that's
deal with it. Like you may struggle with it and you may not know, it may be hidden. You may start to be aware of it, but be afraid. But when it comes to the table, you got to trust your partner with it. Yeah. And I think that's something, when we got married, there were certain certain levels of trauma I didn't tell you till years into our marriage because I wasn't ready to talk about them. And they were very, very, very deep. I remember one time in particular, we were sitting on the bed in our third house. I'm gonna talk about that too. Like we didn't have it, but we built it when we got married. We were in the house, and I remember telling you about something that happened to me when I was a kid, and it took all those years for me to tell you that. And I remember when I told you I broke, I almost screamed in tears because it was like decades of a weep inside of me that I never let out. That's not easy.
No, it's not.
Maybe it took us years,
right, for
me to get there,
right.
And knowing that when I got there, you would be there for me, and now we had enough where I could tell you that I could cry and let it out. And that was the first time I cried about that. Yeah. As an adult. In my 30s. It was very, very strong. Yeah. But that noise I made was totally unnecessary.
It wasn't, that's not how you sounded, but
I didn't. It was highly unnecessary to do that. But I love this permission we're giving people to be their broken selves. Think about this. Psalms 51. How does God measure acceptance? What is it that he requires? Psalm 51 says he requires a broken spirit and a contrite heart. Now let's think about that in our relationships. Yeah. If you can be married with a person whose spirit is humble, that's broken spirit, humble. I don't mean dysfunctional broken spirit. We all got some measure of that. But a humble attitude and a heart of contrition, right? A heart of repentance, a heart of confession. You don't have to be pure because that story is about David's impurity.
Exactly.
But what reconciles an imperfect, impure person to a perfect, impure God is a broken spirit.
Absolutely.
And a contrite heart. And if that's good enough for God, it ought to be good enough for me. It's like, because, I mean, if God is like, as long as your heart is right, you don't think you're perfect, you're not arrogant.
Yeah.
You know, James 4 says he gives more grace to the humble.
It's good.
So if God only needs your humility and your contrition, then that should be great currency.
Absolutely.
To build a foundation for a marriage.
Yeah, I love that.
And we have so I think we learned over time and we built and are still building our lives on that kind of foundation.
Well, and I'm going to say too, we went through extensive premarital counseling. So
we did.
The fact that we were open to engaging in that extensive process.
For
it's
1
so
year.
funny, and it's so funny because after we got married, because we still ran into trauma, we're like, well, man, what was this counseling for? If we were just going to, get married and run into issues. But I think we eventually both saw what that counseling process did is it started a habit or a mental framework for us that says when you hit difficult spots, you go and get help. You go and put in work.
That's right.
You go and be open and you go into a process. And I think it's that habit that we built from the foundation. That's what's helped us to last, as long as we have.
If marriage counseling should do a lot of things, it should reveal some things, give you some education on marriage, give you some tools, but it should also help build momentum on how you should be communicating.
Yeah.
Because we can't talk about everything.
No.
But if we can teach you how to fish,
Tools,
we can give you some ways to start.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think if we did not have that marriage counseling, considering the things we...
For a year. Let's keep talking about how long
for
we
1
did.
year. Now, mind you, we were younger. Some people are older. I don't got a year to give, but it's fine. But if you're intentional, the longer the better. If just be intentional about it.
Yeah.
But I think if we did not have that, how much worse it would have been.
I can't imagine.
We didn't come in with nothing. It's just life is challenging, and I think even having a great start doesn't make it easy.
No.
But I think it helps a lot.
For sure.
And so we had that. So let me ask you a question. Let's keep it a buck in front of all these folks who are watching, the millions and millions of people who are watching this podcast. When it comes to me creating a place as a creative person for my wife to feel safe in.
See, I have a problem with that question.
It's so critical. What?
No, let me tell you why. Because
go ahead.
You can't do that all the time. You can't always make an environment safe for me, because there are going to be some places, there have been some places that God's called you to that are they're not safe. There's nothing you can do about that.
Or there's nothing I can do to prevent you from having your experience of struggle. Like, that's not a bad thing.
No,
for you.
that's what a spouse can do is to continue to make the relationship safe.
Yeah.
You can be a safe person individually
in a place filled with hazard.
Exactly. But and when we're in hazardous environments, you can check in with your spouse. And as much as that person can communicate to you, ask them, what can I do to help you cope in this unsafe space? I mean, man, sometimes just the biggest point of relief is just both of you guys sitting down saying, man, this place is crazy. These people are difficult to deal, to just be honest about that. Because I think, especially when it's the spouse that's the more ambitious spouse, or it's the spouse that is the performer, out of fear sometimes of their spouse not supporting them, or maybe out of guilt because they know it's an unsafe space. Don't gaslight your spouse and be like, oh, well, it's not that bad. Oh, well, I know you thought you picked this up from this person, but it wasn't really like that. No. You know what? That person's probably fake. Your fake-o-meter is on, honey.
Dang.
It's accurate. Okay.
You giving me podcast energy right now. The fake-o-meter.
But, okay, babe, let's talk through that. Let's talk about that. Because my fake-o-meter may be hyperactive, right? It's not even saying that I'm picking up something that's real, but maybe I do need someone that can help talk me through
Yeah.
my feelings about that, you know? And so anyway, so that's why I say I have a challenge with the question, because there just are some times
Okay.
that
So
environment
let's
isn't safe.
redirect from the question. I do have a question out of that, but let's talk about this. So as we dive deeper into this, what you're saying is I can't protect you from everything.
No.
That is maybe a myth buster.
Yes.
Like, I got to get everything right so that it'll be right for her. It's
No.
like, so biblically, we're thinking about God leaving enemies in the promised land,
Mm-hmm.
because to have a promised land without the potential to grow is not the promised land, is heaven. Like, you're done.
No.
So when you see enemies, you then see your potential. Like, so the enemies left there are the reason you're about to be great. Like, the reason the legacy is going to exist is because you had to fight. And I used to think that you can't handle things. So the reason I wouldn't tell you something is because, well, I don't want, I would get all upset. And so I would try to keep it from you. But it was like, I had to learn, your wife is filled with the Holy Spirit. So maybe she will get upset. She needs to learn.
Yeah.
Like, it. She can get through it. Like, it's arrogant to think I can deal with this. She can't do it.
Yes.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
And it's vice versa. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to tell my husband about this because I know how he is. It's
Yeah.
like, well, he needs to grow too.
Absolutely.
And that's what growing together is about, is sharing the things that you both need to work through.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, there are things in every environment that are hazardous that we all have to embrace.
Yes.
There are humans all over the place, right? Human happenings everywhere, and I'm happening to them as well.
That's right.
As a human being. And so to try to hide all that from my wife is to deny you of the opportunity to grow with me.
Absolutely.
And man, what a lesson that's been.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I would, like, certain things that would happen. I would come home and tell you this happened. You'd be like, nah, that didn't happen. They didn't say that. I was like, no, he said that. She did. She'd be like, no way. No. And I'm not talking about any one place, every place.
Yeah, every time. I'm
It was like-
really, Mike?
It was like, we went in this rehearsal thing and then this happened.
said,
And it's like, what? No, you lying. People don't do that kind of stuff. That's not reason. It was like, no, man, that really happened. So, but it's like, you had to, like, so one of the things that helped us is the more you start working with me, me finding more space for you to be included in what I was doing, helped you to see what I was seeing.
Yes.
And so we can develop a perspective about the experience and grow together.
Yes.
So I can tell you about it
Yes.
and not be afraid to share with you. And then also, because you won't have to work with most people to the level that I do from a public standpoint, it doesn't mean that you're not affecting the experience I'm having.
Very
So
true.
you have to learn how to accept certain types of creative people who are not easy to deal with
It's true.
without judging them,
It's true.
right? Because that can happen.
Yeah, it can.
So I think that's important, and I think that's what you just said. And I think it's an admonishment. Like, share what you're growing through.
For sure.
Ask you, like, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's another thing, and this is my last thing, and I know you got a few things. I remember, this is gonna be. I'm looking into the camera because I feel like this is gonna be so helpful. There was a long stretch of our lives where you felt that I wasn't safe.
Yes.
And one of the reasons was you felt that I loved what I did creatively to such a degree that if I had to choose, I would not choose you. I would choose music. I
Yes.
would choose whatever, producing, writing, touring, whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
And that thing came out. And it was a challenge because to me, initially, it felt like you were telling me to choose. And you did say to some degree that, and it's like, well, I can know sooner choose this over you than you can choose anything you were called to do over me. The problem was you weren't a part of it. You didn't see yourself in it. I didn't make room for you in it. I would go do my thing and come back.
Right.
So you felt like that was unsafe.
Well, yeah, because when I married you, you were already doing the music stuff. So it's not like, oh no, he's doing music now. He's got to choose, me over music. No, you were doing that when we were married. When we first got married, we were doing it. We started to do it together. We joined the same group. We were at the same church. You took me places when you would travel and go sing places. You took me with you. So.
And there was a season where that really, really changed.
Yeah, drastically.
And honestly, when we think back on it, when I went from because we were doing a lot of local stuff around town, and the stakes were low. But when I got into it from a vocational, professional standpoint, you got a crew of so many people doing an event in Chicago. Everybody can't bring their wife. The promoter won't pay for those flights. And at the time, the flight cost, what I was going to make to be there was probably a little less than what the flight cost. So if I bought another flight for you, we would be in the hole.
You would lose money by you going.
So it's like, I can't bring you. And I'm not in charge. And that's just going to be tough.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing I can do about it. In the same way is that when you go to work, wherever your work is, if you're a school teacher, if you're a principal, if you're an engineer, it is highly inappropriate to bring your mate to work because you need to bridge some gap for trust. It's like, if you're in the military and you're deployed, your mate can move with you to live in that on quarters, maybe.
Yes.
But that's it. Wherever you're going to work, they're not gonna go.
Right.
It's just not gonna work that way. So because of the nature of what I did for a season, it was very difficult for me to include you.
Yeah. And okay, just like what we talked about earlier, life isn't a journey, it's an adventure.
That's right.
And some parts of your adventure, it's gonna be a disorienting experience.
Yeah.
For both of you.
Facts.
And that's okay. You're going through the jungle and a coconut falls on your head. Your head's going to spin for a minute, right? But at some point, you're going to get your bearing, all right? And so when you got your bearings, you said something very powerful to me. You said, and this is what we talked about earlier, when it can be so liberating for the spouse to acknowledge the unsafe space. You said, babe, I know this is messed up, that I can't take you with me. This is just temporary because one day I'm going to have my own ministry and I'm going to take you everywhere I go. Okay.
Now I'm going to tell you this. I don't know which sound you're talking about, but I remember the very first time I said that. Early in our marriage, when I was the grunt, no man on the totem pole, like earning my stripes, and learning more than I was actually contributing. So when someone hires you, and you're gonna learn more than they're gonna pay you, you gotta be humble about that. So I was learning more than I was contributing, and in that season, I remember telling you, I know I'm putting in hours, I'm putting in time, but we love each other. We're gonna have to hold on to that. Yeah. And you were like,
what you were doing, you were planting a seed.
I was trying.
It wasn't that the seed, it hadn't harvested yet, but I'm gonna tell you this, and I've said this to you before. With women, no matter whether you're an outwardly emotional woman or you're more of an internal emotionally woman, just having those words and that assurance from you for me to fight with emotionally when the enemy would whisper in my ear, when I would feel afraid, when I would get bad advice from women around me who was telling me what I should or shouldn't do. Yeah. You speaking those nuggets, you planting those seeds, that it was something that I could fight with. when I came to those moments. And again, neither one of us did everything perfectly, during that season. But I will definitely say, again, you speaking those words and having that clarity in that moment to say that to me, and you've delivered on what you promised. Now we're in a different season. Now it's the opposite. I'm like, okay, you go. Okay, take Isaiah this time. I'm going to stay home now. I'm turning down trips now, and so
You're
I'm
literally
ready.
sending, like me and Isaiah going to the UK next month.
Yes, and I'm saying,
You're like, I'm good on that trip.
Enjoy.
I took you last year.
Yes.
And you had a ball.
I
You
had
went to
a great
see
time.
a
Yes.
show.
Yes.
Like a Broadway show and all that.
It was a lot of fun.
And I took Isaiah to South Africa this year, and you got to stay home. Mm-hmm. But then we're all going out of town this weekend together to just. So, but I think, and so I told you that early, and I came back later, and you didn't believe me at first when I told you that. You were like, you just saying whatever. You don't love me. You gonna jump ship as soon as you get a big break. And marriage got real hard after that.
Did, yeah.
Eventually, by God's hand of grace, some internal miracles, intangible miracles are the best miracles. When God works out something in your heart that you didn't see, I was able to come back and say it again because I wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
But I kept my word. I learned a valuable lesson. I had to learn to make room for you. Even in situations where I don't control everything, I still control me. So so here's where we start. I'm not going to take or accept anything that me and you don't talk about first.
Right.
If it's a session, and I've done lots of those. So let me talk to my wife first. Let's talk about it. And it may very well be like, baby, I need you. Or in lieu of you doing that, we'll decide together how we want to do life.
Right.
As opposed to me just saying, because this is what I would do. When I get a call from somebody, whenever I get that call and my phone says no call ID, like it's somebody famous. like this is somebody important. I'm answering this call. And typically that's true. And it would be that pressure of, I want to be in that space so bad, I'm going to say yes no matter what. And then Siobhan will be fine. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I have to be willing to say no every single time. Let me just slow this down. For every person who you're talented, you're a musician, you're an artist, whatever you are, you want to go on the road, you want to go on tour, you want to do something major, you want to be in a studio session, you want to be a part of something incredible. You have to be willing to say no every single time. If you are desperate for an assignment, you're going to try to get your fulfillment out of people.
That's true.
You will prostitute yourself.
It's true.
Because that's what happens when you're so desperate, you'll sell your soul for an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you will sell out yourself, your wife, your husband, your children, your parents, because you think this opportunity ain't coming around again. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Listen, I serve a once in a lifetime God. So whatever the once in a lifetime opportunity was, if he did it before,
Come on now.
he'll do it again.
Yes,
and maybe the indication of this once in a lifetime opportunity is just God showing you the kind of things you need to get used to.
Yeah, come on.
Because if you start to think, I have to say yes to everything or else it will never come back to me, you're serving the wrong God.
Come on. Serve a God of abundance.
It's just like this. There have been seasons where I've got multiple significant offers. And by virtue of getting multiple offers, I know I can't take them all.
Right.
I had to learn that those multiple offers are indication of a season change for you.
Yeah, it's good.
It doesn't, if you get to the place, young man, that women starting to come around you, they can smell that masculinity coming up, that cologne, and everybody, hey, how you doing? It's like, man, I'm getting a lot of attention. A lot of people they noticing me in the streets. They starting to see me. You have to understand, all those women aren't for you. But it might be indication that you're entering a season that you're more attractive to women.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time for you to get serious and more intentional about how you're engaging these women so that you can select the right one for your life.
Yeah, for the singles.
And understanding that God is a God of more than enough.
Yes, he is.
Jehovah Jireh, El Shaddai.
Abundance.
He's an abundant God This is not no name it, claim it, stab it, grab it point I'm making. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that the God you made everything. Mm-hmm. Everything is for him and from him. Mm-hmm. And it exists because of him. Mm-hmm. So there is no opportunity that God can't repeat. That's what amen even means. Do it again. Like God can do it again. Mm-hmm. Like God would ever. So understand, don't be desperate for an opportunity, y'all. Yeah. Don't be desperate. And so with that in mind, I had to learn that with every opportunity that my wife and I would receive, mm-hmm. or that would come to me, I had to be willing to say no to every single one of them.
Now, I want to bring the other side of that, in that I also had to earn the trust of my husband and him believing that I wasn't going to ask him to say no to every opportunity, because I believed in the bigger vision for what we wanted to build. Okay, so then the conversations moved from, at first it really was about me understanding, and I know Jimmy Evans from Marriage Today, he talks about this a lot, but the law of priority, right?
Yes,
in marriage,
yes.
That's foundational. You have to believe that your spouse is willing to put your needs above all others, okay? All right, so once we've gotten past that, because, okay, maybe you need a season where he just needs to be home or she just needs to be home to establish that.
Yeah.
Once we've gotten past that, and you should get past that, then we now make decisions based on, okay, is taking this opportunity, is it going to move us closer to our shared vision as a family?
Yeah.
And so now it's like, and now sometimes, again, it can be the opposite. And Mike will be like, man, babe, I don't want to do this. And I'll be like, well, don't you see, if you did this, it could mean this and this and this for what we're trying to build. Please go.
Man,
please get out of here.
Pushing
go.
me out the house. There's so many times I don't, because sometimes when you do stuff all the time, it's nice as you get older to say, I'm gonna be home Tuesday night. I'm not going anywhere. But your vision sometimes and many times has helped me to see value in places that I wouldn't typically see it. Mm. And has pushed me to take advantage of God opportunities that I would have passed on. Mm-hmm. So not trusting you enough to entrust things to you.
Yes, yes.
And allow you to speak to it.
Yes.
It's really been a game changer for how we operate together.
Right, right.
I think there are a lot of, and I was this way, a lot of men can be this way. I kill and eat. Like, I don't need my wife's permission. And maybe it's not that I'm not
and you don't. You don't need your wife's permission.
Well, listen, I need your cooperation.
You do need my cooperation. Yes.
So permission, but see, I get your cooperation by voluntarily submitting to your permission.
Yes.
And I think this is what Ephesians 5 is saying, when before you ever get to wife submit to your husbands, the verse prior says submit one to another. Mm-hmm. And that submitting one to another, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Mm-hmm. But if you want the best from your mate, so you think of this, submit yourselves to one another in fear of God. That's the foundation of submission. Then the context for your marriage, wife submit to your husband, husband love your wife, wife of church, wives respect your husband. The idea of how we serve each other within the context of submission is important.
Right.
So it starts with me submitting to my wife.
And I want to bring even a further nuance to that, because sometimes there are seasons where your spouse, they're developing, and the idea of submitting to that individual can be difficult mentally. Okay.
Facts.
So what you're doing as a husband, you're submitting to the marriage. You are married. Yeah. I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care if you're in the music industry, the entertainment industry, whatever. Married individuals cannot behave like single individuals.
Facts.
And so whether it's the husband or the wife, if you start there and saying, I have to get permission from the marriage, I have to get permission from this union, this partnership that we're in order to do this thing.
So what that means is your mate may not be mature enough to actually operate.
No.
And so here's what it is. If we can get an agreement around a vision,
yes,
and start growing,
yes,
the pace of the growth is the pace of producing in the assignment. Mm-hmm. And that pace is safe for both of us.
Yes.
So it was, in many instances, I felt like I could move faster without you.
Right.
But I could have more sustainable pace.
Sustainable growth.
And growth
Right.
at your pace. So I had to
No
learn.
spouse should feel like they're dragging the other.
Right.
That's
and
very
for me, it's like,
important,
I have longer legs than you. So when we're walking, I have to intentionally walk slower.
Yes.
I can walk much faster.
Yes.
But the reason I'm walking slower is because I want to be
You're
with
in a
you.
marriage.
I'm in
You're
a
in a
marriage.
union,
I'm
yes.
not going to the store by myself.
Exactly.
To get what I want. I'm going with you.
Yeah.
And our communion on that journey is based on our willingness to agree to a pace that we can both keep.
Exactly.
So I have slowed down.
Yes. And I've strengthened my legs.
And you strengthen your legs. And our pace,
I can walk a little faster.
our pace has synced up.
Yes.
In that process, you got to remember that when you start a project, your objective in the beginning is not producing, it's learning how to work.
Right.
So you got to understand, like, well, my wife is frustrating me. It's because y'all don't know how to work together yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I got these big things I want to do. That, yes, you will do those things, but you need her help. Well, she
Right.
can't really help because she don't know what to do. Exactly. So y'all have to learn to work together because in learning to work together, then you can exponentially increase your pace and your ability and potential to produce down the road.
Ooh,
When you
sounds like a good segue.
It's a good segue. Is it a segue?
Yes, it's a perfect segue.
But it is, we are at about an hour and I want to make sure so you want to go to your 3 points?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
We wanted to, so when we were just talking about today and what we wanted to leave you guys with, we get this question a lot. How do you work with your spouse? Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And there's no one size fits all, answer. So Mike and I just wanted to give you guys 3 tools that
You can look right. Tell
or
these
3
folks.
keys.
Talk to the people.
Talk to people.
Right here.
Hey, people. 3 keys that we believe could be a blessing to you guys, as you're on your journey. So the first key I'd say is really, really important. Do you need to work with your spouse? Because just because you're married, it doesn't mean that you're ready to work together, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you making the decision not to work together will save your marriage. It's best for your marriage. A lot of times I get very, irritated with this myth of the power couple.
Well,
It seems to be very glamorized these days, I guess because of social media, IG, Instagram, whatever. But basically, from what it seems to me that whole typecast means is that both parties are out front with the spotlight on them, showing off what they can do, and it's crazy because some of the most amazing people that have built amazing ministries, businesses, have been great leaders. The most typical model is there's one person that takes the front end of a lot of the attention, and there's somebody behind the scenes being a very strong support. And so I'm going to say, don't try to make your marriage look like someone else's Instagram profile that you see. Okay.
Well,
Now, sometimes God will call both couples out front, and that's amazing and that's great. But that may not be you. It may not be your time. It may not be your season to work with your spouse like that. And that is okay. Being a wife is a whole job. Okay.
Well.
So if you decide to work with your spouse, you're taking on another
job.
full-time job. All right. So if you have a lot of young children back to back, or if you're having health issues, or if you're working through some emotional maturity issues and it's not your season yet, it is okay.
Preach, girl,
Okay.
preach. That I feel like she preaching, bro. Like that's good. Okay, what's the next point?
Okay, so the next question to ask is, if you've made the decision that, hey, you want to work with your spouse, you guys have an amazing vision that you want to build together, what tools do we need? Okay, assess your current tools, and then if they're not sufficient, get new ones. Now, what do I mean when I say tools? I would say strategies and habits that you've built in order to work through and resolve conflict in your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need tools.
We need those.
Okay, let's give an example or
Okay.
two on the tools that we use to work together.
Okay.
My favorite one to talk about is the one that our counselor gave us a few years ago
Yes.
about choosing who's in charge.
So setting that up, Mike and I had already done a lot of work in our relationship to personally relate very well, personally resolve conflict very well. But when we started working together, we all of a sudden started kicking up into all these little spicy moments. And
She
we
was
were like,
disrespectful.
where is this coming
She
from?
was very disrespectful, yo. When I started talking like that, that's when the real, she's very disrespectful, my man.
True.
She was
Not true. Derek, I know you don't believe him. I know you don't believe
She
him.
was mad disrespectful, yo. But it's facts. So,
Listen.
you're right. So, yes,
Yes.
that's what it was.
Yes.
And so, what we learned was to get through that conflict.
Yes.
We were in a therapy session over Zoom, and our therapist told us, before you start your meeting, select who's in charge of that meeting. And whoever's not in charge of the meeting then has to submit to whoever's in charge of the meeting. And instantly, all of the fighting went away.
Yeah.
And typically when we have a moment, it's because we didn't remember to do that, and we just reset to that. Who's in charge of
Yeah.
this meeting? Okay.
Yeah.
Who's going to be
Real
the
easy.
one who's going to carry this project?
Right.
Then do it the way you want to do it.
Right. I think another big game changer with us as far as tools as well has been a shared family calendar. Just around
Everything shared.
conflict. If you're going to work together, understanding that if you're going to work on something and you're building something that is not established, you're working like an entrepreneur.
That's right.
Which means there's really no line between personal and work. You can't do what people tell you to do. Oh, when you drive in front of your house, you leave your job at the job, and then you walk into your house. No, when you're trying to build something with your spouse, it's all
Everything is
mixed
there
together. So a shared calendar is just definitely a game changer for us.
And like whenever things happen, there's two steps. Get permission, put it on the calendar.
Yes.
Because
immediately,
it doesn't
whether
matter
it's confirmed or not.
if it's a lunch, if it's a Zoom, if it's a phone call, you got to take, put it on the calendar so that your mate can instantly see it, because your mate is your partner. You want, because my wife is helping me plan not only my business world, she's helping me plan my personal world. So if my son needs me and she can see that I have a call planned at 2:00, she can either move my son and I's activity, or she can tell me, Michael, you have to move that because your son needs you. You have to be at the meeting with the teacher. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
So it's really just embracing life organization, not segmenting or
No.
exactly. You something like
Yeah.
compartmentalizing everything so
No,
that they don't
can't do
touch.
that.
Like no.
No.
It's gotta be spaghetti. Everything's gotta touch.
Now, we also do, though, when it comes to our shared calendar with work and personal, we do draw compartments around rest time
For sure.
and business hours.
And there are certain blocks on my
Yeah,
schedule that belong
yeah,
to me. But
exactly.
you won't put anything on it.
Exactly.
I get to decide that.
Yeah.
So we have ways of working together, and that's just another lesson in and of itself.
Yeah, it
How
is.
do you put that calendar together? Like there are certain
That'll
days
be another
every week
conversation.
that's like, hey, my wife typically says Thursdays and Fridays are yours. I'm not going to populate that with extra meetings. So you can do what you want to do with those. And if I need something, I'll ask, but I'll try to stay away from that time. When it comes to Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I try to stay out of her administrative time. So she can have time to be productive. And we've got that. And on the weekends, I'm most likely going to be going somewhere, or they're going to be with me. But the point we're making is put it on the calendar and share that personal calendar. Okay.
Yeah.
We got one more point?
One more point, and it's what we've been talking about basically the whole podcast. Embrace the journey. It's a journey. You're not going to, it's a process. Over time, things will improve. They'll get better. You'll get more in sync when it comes to working together. So be patient with your spouse.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself, and just pour grace on each other.
We need it.
You know, when you first get started. So
This has been so good. So many nuggets. I hope you guys are just gleaning from this. This sounds like one of those podcasts. If you're watching this and your mate, hasn't watched it, I think you should get together and watch this together and take some notes so you can be intentional about what are we going to activate out of this? What I'm going to do with this, especially these last 3 points. Like, because a lot of us, even if you don't end up working together when it comes to the vocational aspect of what you do or the business aspect of what you do, there still has to be an integration
For sure.
in what you're doing. So if you're not working together, how are you intentionally integrating your wife with that? So she doesn't feel like she's isolated from you. And there's a lot of things about that you can mitigate. Like you're having experiences without your wife. How can I find a way to include her so she can have that experience too, so she can understand what I'm going through? Your mate can only empathize as much as they understand. And if you do too much compartmentalization, not only are you removing them from maybe some of the drama, you're also removing them from the ability to understand. And when they can't understand, they can't empathize. Then they get frustrated because they don't have context. They don't know what you're talking about. And when you say, baby, I'm sorry, I can't have you at this meeting. And then she's like, but somebody else brought their wife. Why didn't you bring yours? Then she don't understand. And maybe you're right. And maybe you're wrong. Maybe you're trying to put, and this is something else I had to learn. I had to learn to stop trying to protect everybody else. I had to learn to prioritize my protection primarily for my wife. And now, granted, we doing business. We got to make this happen. It's not a matter of how we can do it, but I got to make sure I prioritize, because what I would do when I was younger is I would tell my wife, you got to step back. Because they ain't gonna understand you, or they won't let me do this, or I was always trying to make sure, because I was such a people pleaser and I wanted to make sure they were happy, and I was so thirsty for the opportunity. I would say, I can't think about how you feel right now. I need you to step back and don't worry about it. Go over there and sit down. I'll be back in 2 days. But that's not prioritizing you. For one, I had to learn to be willing to turn the thing down. For two, I had to learn to make sure that you understood what was going on. And then where I couldn't control the outcome, at least we had enough to build agreement on together.
That's good.
So, man, so many good nuggets. Sit down with your wife, your husband. It may be the woman.
Because sometimes it's
right.
Flip.
And I've got some friends where the woman's out front and the husband's in the background. These principles work the same way. They're the same thing. The marital structure biblically doesn't change, but the way you operate may change. And you got to be okay with that. The last thing Siobhan said was embrace it. Don't reject it. Even if you don't understand what your mate is saying, you have to embrace it. Ultimatums don't work.
No.
Right? Because that's a form of rejection. To tell me that I can only be with you, but my baby can't come with me, my child, that ain't gonna work. You have to embrace me and the child of my creativity, because that's a part of me. And I don't know how to do it perfectly, and we're gonna learn to do it together. There's so many nuggets from the day. I love the nugget of you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be progressing. And you don't need to figure everything out before you get married.
No.
I want to encourage people who are thinking about marriage to be more intentional about it. You can't control all the circumstances, but if you are avoiding it because you're afraid that something could hurt it, your marriage is probably the marriage itself is stronger than you individually.
That's right.
So what the marriage has the ability to produce is greater than what you will produce alone.
That's true.
So you should be running towards it and trying to determine on some sort of timeline, how soon could I do it, rather than how late can I do it.
Get married, people.
Just go on and do it. Now, I'm just saying,
it's okay to desire to do that.
Let me just say, this will be hard to hear for people who feel like, from a female's perspective, well, no one's asked me. I want to be. I'm not speaking to that part of it. The part I am speaking to is, if you are in a relationship and you're delaying marriage on purpose out of fear of something or the unknown, or you're trying to grow through something, or you're trying to deal with some trauma, or you're trying to make enough money. Like, listen, when we got married, one of the first things we got to it. We started doing real estate together.
Made it happen together.
In 1 year, we bought 2 real estate investment properties, flipped one, then did another one. And like her fire with my ingenuity turned into something that from like in our early 20s, he was like, we about to get this money.
We're going to take over the world.
We about to get this. And listen, when we did our first property, when we got paid out our first payment, it was almost 30 grand.
Mm-hmm.
I went and got me an I-30. I was like, I'm going to drive like a, you know what I mean? That was not smart. Okay.
Being young.
I need to keep on driving that Malibu. That's what I need to do. But the thing is, we leveled up together.
Yeah, we did.
And we learned and are still learning how to upgrade.
Still learning.
Mm-hmm. You and my homie said this on this podcast the other day. It's like you can't get a new wife. You got one, but you can't help upgrade the one you got.
Absolutely.
So do the work to keep getting better. The whole thing of
Absolutely.
growing apart is because you stop upgrading.
That's right.
Like if you don't upgrade your laptop, it will not perform, even though it has the capacity to upgrade that thing. So that your apps work, so that your programs run. I was having a problem the other day. I couldn't pull up Pro Tools. Like, what in the world's going on? All it was is I hadn't updated Pro Tools. Updated the software on the laptop, the operating system, but didn't upgrade. So it's like, upgrade the thing. It's going to work. The potential is there for it to be cohesive. Yeah. But you got to do the work. And thank you, Siobhan. Thank you for doing the work with me. You partnered with me when I was a young man, wet behind the ears, breath smelling like Similac.
Oh, Lord.
And I have grown up.
We've grown up together for sure.
We've grown up in the marriage. I'm gonna talk about me.
Okay.
I can't talk about you. I can't that girl right there. But we were just talking about this last night, man. We've grown a lot. Mm-hmm. And we're growing a lot.
Still growing.
This season we're in right now.
Oh yeah.
It's a doozy. I certainly hope it looks easier than it really is.
We're still getting new tools. We're still going after new tools. Yeah.
And every level of life, you re-enter the freshman dynamic.
Absolutely.
Of I've never been here.
Absolutely.
I don't know what my classroom is.
You feel like you're getting hazed. Like, God, are you hazing me?
I'm getting punked all over again, right? Like, where everybody at? What's going on? I don't understand what's going on. I should know better by now. Like, what in the world?
No, it still feels the same.
That's
every
where
time.
we are.
Yeah, we are.
But we shorten the learning curve because we have the principles.
Our old tools help us with that.
Yes, man. So the old saints would say, every round goes higher and higher since I laid my burden down. Every round goes higher and higher since I laid my burdens down, Lord, since I laid my burdens down, Lord. Burdens. She started like, okay, burdens down, Lord, since I laid my burdens down. I wanted to sing at some point in this episode.
Enjoy yourself.
And I got to sing. Yeah. Okay, I'm done. Sorry. This has been the Life in the Wild podcast, marriage edition. Hazardous purpose, places, safe places, all the things. I don't know what
the grand adventure.
The grand adventure of two creative people navigating identity, growing, progressing, not perfect, but progressing together.
Yes.
I want you guys to do me a favor, like this episode, and also subscribe to this channel. If it's adding value to your life, listen, just subscribe to it. Also, if you want to be a part of the community, the Life in the Wild Tribe community, click the link in the description, right? And you can see all the different things going on, because there's some things that we want to give you. We got some blogs in there you can read. We've got some devotionals in there, some videos, and some things that you can enjoy. And we also have some other opportunities. So click the link in the description so you can connect with us. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future podcast episodes. And let's keep it going, all right? God bless you. Exceptional people with exceptional callings doing exceptional things. We are discipling creative leaders, and you are one of them. God bless you. See you next time. Peace.